Hello there, I'm a Daily reviewing 1988's Hell Comes to Frogtown. This is another movie from the era of VHS that I came across in the late 80s. Now, one thing that distinguishes the 80s from the other decades of film is the rise of the post-apocalyptic movie. Now, the 80s didn't invent the post-apocalyptic movie, but there did seem to be an explosion in the number produced. No doubt some of the reason for this was due to the election of Reagan, and the commies in Hollywood were just sure it was going to be the end of the world. But a good chunk of California happens to be desert, and that makes for a nice playground for post-apocalyptic settings, or as they like to call it in Hollywood, production value. Now, quite frankly, most of these films were pretty bad. This particular movie is one of the mid-ground films. Not great, but not terrible either. And the plot to the movie sounds like that of a porno. See if you agree. A fair chunk of the Earth has been nuked, wiping out close to 70% of men and leaving the women in charge. Of those survivors, most, both male and female, are sterile. Which brings us to our protagonist, Sam Hell. Turns out, his gun is still loaded. And he is tasked by the surviving government to impregnate as many fertile women as he can.
Excellent!
See what I mean by sounding like it's a porno? Of course, like most stories, there are a few hiccups along the way.
Bogus!
The biggest hiccup being that a number of known fertile women have been captured by mutants and taken to Frogtown. And it is up to him and his two governmental handlers, Sentinella and Spangle, to find and rescue these women. Then it will be up to Sam to get them pregnant. And that is the primary thrust of the plot. So, short review, this is a B-movie, which means that it has a limited budget. There is some action, but not much. There are several somewhat humorous scenes revolving around Sam's codpiece, however. The creature makeup is a credit to Steve Wang, who really did some great work considering he was only paid $12,000. Both that and seeing Sandal Bergman in lingerie are the main reasons for seeing this movie. I give this a mild recommendation. If you can find it on a streaming service for free, there you go. Long review, are you ready for some post-apocalyptic sexual indentured servitude? As always, spoilers ahead. We open to find our protagonist, one Sam Hell, in an interrogation room facing the accusation of rape. He denies it, and he is assaulted by his interrogator, Captain Devlin. Devlin is about to have some real fun when a voice stops him. It's two female authorities from MedTech. MedTech is the division of the government responsible for repopulating the United States. One is an Amanda Waller wannabe by the name of Patton. The other is Spangle. She's not to be taken lightly. MedTech has received reports of Mr. Hell and the string of pregnancy he has left behind in the wasteland, and they want to put him to work. Sam isn't interested, so they counteroffer with returning him to jail. Sam decides that public service might not be that bad after all. But public service isn't without its downside as well, as he is fitted with a codpiece so that the government can keep control of him. The good news...
How do I... There's a flap.
The bad news is, as we'll find out later, next up is the mission briefing. A detachment of the Border Patrol has been attacked and wiped out by a force of greeners, amphibian mutants that have been relegated to the wastelands much like the American Indians of old. Traveling with the detachment were several civilian females who are now being held hostage. It will be their job to go to Frogtown and rescue them. Then it will be Sam's job to get them pregnant.
Oh, what a nice guy.
Sam is introduced to the final member of the team, Sentinella. She handles the machine gun and does some of the driving. So our intrepid trio set out into the wasteland, heading for the Mutant Reserve and Frogtown. At one point, they have to stop and refill the MedTech mobile, and this is where Sam discovers the leash that MedTech has on him. He says he has to go water the flowers and they let him. Spangle doesn't warn him about his electronic leash. I suppose she believes that some people learn better by example. Or she could just be a sadist. Once Sam gets out of sight of the women, he decides to make a break for it. Soon he hears an alarm starting to go off. But since he hasn't been warned about what that means, he keeps going until the codpiece administers a painful but non-damaging shock to his love gun. Spangle then shows up to inform him about the electronic leash. Later that night, we get one of the better reasons to watch this movie. Part of Spangle's orders are to keep Sam in a state of arousal to increase his potency. The downside of this, of course, is that aroused men tend to want to get their gun off.
This is what's known as getting your gun off.
And Spangle has to tase him again.
Goddamn army.
The next day they make it to the mutant reservation and keep heading towards Frogtown. As the sun goes down again, their sensors pick up movement nearby.
Look, I'm telling you, there's something moving and it ain't us.
They get in the medtech mobile to check it out. Turns out it's one of the women that had been captured by the Greeners. She's made a break for it and is in a heck of a state. Spangle gives her a roofie to increase the girl's fertility and receptiveness, and then tells Sam to get to it, soldier. Well, it turns out his little soldier is a little shy, especially since he has to perform with an audience. So Spangle puts on a little show for him, motivation before he goes into action. It works, and the two share a moment that you can see in their eyes. Sam then gets to work while staring at Spangle. The next morning, the girl tells them which way Frogtown is, and Spangle gives her a locator beacon/compass and tells her to head south for a couple of days where she should run into the Border Patrol and be rescued. Never mind the fact that they don't give her any supplies, or that they themselves have been driving for 2 days. I'm sure she'll do just fine on foot in the desert by herself. Our heroes are then back on the trail heading towards Frogtown. They find a nice place to hide the medtech mobile, and Spangle puts on her best slave girl outfit. I say it gives the slave Leah outfit a run for its money. The two then head for Frogtown on foot, Sam posing as a scavenger with a tasty blonde to barter with. They head into the first bar they come across, and it's hardly Rick's Cafe American. I gotta admit, I like this touch. It won't be long until the current day Greeners have us creating electricity this way as well. It's here that Sam runs into an old friend named Looney, who's a miner. They reminisce for a bit, and then Looney introduces Sam to the owner of the establishment, one Leroy. Leroy, for his part, is interested in buying Spangle, but as he and Sam haggle over price, the equivalent of the second-in-command of Frogtown shows up and he puts the kibosh on the deal. There are no private deals in Frogtown, as the head frog known as Commander Toady has to get his 10%. So Bull makes the only public bid on Spangle, and it's a pittance. Sam rejects it. Bull then punches Sam, knocking him out. He then announces that the bar has been shut down until further notice. He then leaves with Spangle. Sam then wakes up in an indeterminate amount of time later, and the first thing he sees is the face of the female frog stripper. Her name is Arabella, and she is Spangle's contact in Frogtown. She is sworn to bring about the end of Toady's rule. Sam is grateful, and he says he doesn't know how to thank her for her help. She has an idea. Before the movie dives headfirst into
Interspecies erotica at its finest.
The alarm on Sam's codpiece starts to sound. He tells Arabella that it will explode if he gets too far from Spangle. She points him in the direction of Toady's compound, and Sam sets off to rescue Spangle. Sam makes his way to a warehouse, and he sees Spangle being held captive before Commander Toady. And he's just in time to see a mysterious figure wearing a gas mask completing a deal with Toady. They shake hands, and the figure in the gas mask says that Toady will receive another shipment within a week, and he pats a stack of crates. The figure then leaves, and shortly thereafter, Sam loses his balance and falls from his vantage point and lands on the crates, revealing that they contain guns. Toady then orders his guards to seize Sam and have Spangle taken away to be prepared for a little
Interspecies erotica at its finest.
Sam is taken to Bull's torture lab, where Bull is going to remove the codpiece because he and Toady are interested in Medtech's equipment. Sam warns him that if he tries to remove it, it is wired to explode. Bull laughs at him, saying,
Medtech wouldn't be stupid enough to wire a potent mail.
In another part of the lair, an area filled with candles and incense, several women are lightly arousing Spangle's skin with veils. This is to prime her for the dance of the three snakes. Back with Sam, Bull has used a chainsaw to remove the codpiece, and he laughs at Sam with his prize. It explodes in his face. Arabella then rushes in to untie Sam. They begin to make a break for it when Bull stabs Arabella. Sam in return kills Bull, and then begins to search for Spangle. Elsewhere, Looney fires off a flare to signal to Sentinella that it's time to come and get them. And back in Toady's lair, we find out that Spangle has been brought before him, and he orders her to dance. And Toady is more interested in the Indian tomb business. So Spangle does her best Deborah Paget imitation, and soon Toady becomes as horny as, you guessed it, a three-dick toad. Toady then wants Spangle for a little sexy time, but Spangle has other ideas.
I just thought of some new steps.
Sam then shows up to save the day, guns blazing. Toady takes off in all the mayhem. Sam and Spangle share a moment, and then they go to rescue the other women. Proving that Jennifer Lawrence didn't invent the female action hero, Spangle once again shows that she isn't just eye candy. They then rescue the harem, and Centinella arrives just in time for all of them to make a break for it. Next up, a one-on-one car chase. The Road Warrior this is not. Toady's car has a cannon on it, and it fires several shells that hit nearby, causing Spangle to turn towards a nearby canyon. Once in the canyon, they run into our mysterious masked stranger, and he's sporting an RPG. He removes his mask, revealing that is Captain Devlin from the beginning of the film. Devlin then monologues on his plans for the future, inspired by his hatred of women that now run the world. He's going to have some nuclear bombs made, and things are going to be different. Just as Devlin is about to kill Spangle, Sam throws his katana at him, and Devlin is impaled by the sword. He then falls from his overlook. Spangle and Sam then run over to check on the body, but it is gone. Classic 1980s villain fake-out death. They then have a much less macho showdown than Roddy's more famous scene from They Live. On his way back to the MedTech mobile, there is an explosion. Oh crap, that's right. They were being chased by Toady. Sam makes it back to the flaming wreckage of the MedTech mobile. Then Toady pulls up. He's elated that victory is finally his, when he should be sad that no one's going to be dancing for the Three Snakes anymore. Sam shows up behind them with Devlin's RPG. He tells Toady's hench frogs to leave so that he can have a mano-a-mano moment with Toady. Their fight is about on par with Kirk versus the Gorn. Sam finally gets the better of Toady by punching him until he falls off the edge of the precipice. But Toady grabs Sam by the leg and is holding on for dear life. Sam finally gets his katana and cuts Toady's hands off, sending him falling. Sam goes back down to the remains of the MedTech mobile when he hears a voice cry out.
Sam!
They are alive. Apparently they took cover when they saw Toady heading their way.
Excellent!
Sam and Spangle finally show their feelings towards one another, and then everyone gets in the Frogmobile to head back to civilization. Spangle reminds him that he has some work to do.
Oh, yeah.
And there you have it, Hell Comes to Frogtown. It's been a while since I had last seen it, and had fond memories of it. Upon this review, I have to admit, it's kind of bland. There are a couple of humorous scenes, and I certainly appreciate scantily clad women. The costumes are decent, it's well shot, and the creature effects are pretty damn good, especially considering the money spent. But what little action they do have is rather weak and poorly choreographed. Now, the 1980s and 90s are littered with low-budget movies, and to make up for their low budgets, filmmakers would usually have gratuitous nudity or over-the-top violence, and sometimes a combination of both. This is what is known as production value.
There's only one thing that adds real production value.
What's that?
Tits and ass.
This film has surprising little of either. Especially so considering it's the story of a man fighting mutants and trying to repopulate the world. I guess you can't have everything. The movie was directed by Donald G. Jackson and R.J. Kaiser. Jackson is best known for B-movie schlock, including this, Rollerblade Warriors, The Rollerblade 7, and Legend of the Rollerblade 7. Of all his movies, I've only seen Hell Comes to Frogtown, but I did find it interesting that he has directing credits on 9 movies that came out after he died in 2003. Impressive to say the least. Kaiser only has 3 directing credits. This, the added American scenes in Godzilla 1985, and Death Ring. It was co-written by Donald Jackson and Randall Frakes. Frakes is best known for Rollerblade, this, Rollerblade Warriors, and Diplomatic Immunity. Also, Frakes did the novelizations for The Terminator and Terminator 2. It stars Roddy Piper, Sandal Bergman, Cease Verrill, and William Smith. None are going to win any Oscars for this film, but they do a serviceable job. It was rated R for brief nudity, coarse language, and violence. Clocking in at an hour and 26 minutes, it won't take up too much of your time. Wikipedia has the budget at $1.5 million, and I couldn't find any box office results. So in closing, I think this is a competently made film that has some silly moments. It has some lovely women willing to show a bit of skin, and some really nice creature effects for the money spent. It is certainly better than some of Hollywood's more recent and expensive efforts. So if you like B-movies from the 80s and 90s, this just might be for you. Once again, thanks for watching, and until next time.
It's one small step for man.
Now cut that